Hello, everyone, and happy weekend. So, welcome to our second edition of Intuitive Exercise. How's that for an inspired name? That's about as good as it gets right now, so we'll start there. So, this week we're going to actually talk about using a pendulum. And what I would like you to consider is that a pendulum needn't be something that you purchased at a metaphysical store. A pendulum could easily be a necklace that has a pendant on it that you don't wear very often. Simply, and there I go with the again, oops. And simply because I say the part about that you don't wear too often, simply because once you start to use it, you may find that you use it quite a bit. It becomes second nature to pick it up sometimes. Not convenient if it's hanging around your neck. It's just something to consider. Another thing that could be a pendulum is a stone. Like, let's see, take one off my altar right here in front of me. Like this balance stone, which has a nice weight to it. Maybe a little bit too much weight, I don't know. But something of this nature. Tie a string securely around it. Make sure you have a good 8 to 10 inch length of string to hold on to. Possibly consider making a loop at the top of the string to put your finger through for a little extra security, just in case your pendulum decides to do crazy spinning like mine likes to do sometimes. So really, something like this would work. Something else that occurred to me that entertained my brain, as many things do, is taking a 5 milliliter bottle of essential oil and tying a string to it. It's not too heavy. It's a good size. And actually, I think it would be amusing to see it swinging around. So, again, just things to consider. You don't have to go all fancy and, get a pendulum from a metaphysical store like I did. So this is my pendulum. And what I'm going to show you is how to program a pendulum and then how to use it. As you can see, it's swinging even though my hand isn't moving. What does that mean? I feel like it's ready to do some work and kind of almost like show off in a sense, which is really funny. Show you what it does. That's it. Show you its purpose, because that's, it's made for a purpose. Before I do that, I want to mention something that happened last weekend. I was in a store with some of my girlfriends, a store called Serendipity, as it happens. If you live in the Exeter, New Hampshire area and you haven't been to Serendipity on Water Street in downtown Exeter, about diagonally across from the Green Bean restaurant, you're missing the boat. You need to go in there. It's great. It's a tiny little store in a very old building. Exeter is a very old town. For the United States, it's a very old town. And this is one of their really old buildings on what is their downtown street, Water Street. Tiny store. And yet, I feel like you could easily spend a couple of hours in there and still not see everything. It's that kind of store. I love that kind of store. So anyway, I was in there for about an hour with my girlfriends, and we still didn't see everything. But at one point, my eyes were drawn to their counter and necklaces that were hanging. And they were really simple, but one really caught my eye, and it was a clear quartz. It was a wand, kind of like this, only, maybe a third of the size. Really, really tiny. And it caught my eye. So I picked up the necklace, and as I held it, it started swinging in circles. And I immediately stopped it because I wasn't expecting that when I picked it up. I didn't I could have had in the back of my mind, why are you picking this up? You're not interested in purchasing it. Why are you even looking at it? I just, was going with the flow, and there was a reason for that. The reason that the necklace with the quartz pendant was spinning was because the store needed a clearing. And so the owner, I believe it was the owner, and the clerk who was working at the time were behind the counter. And I said, "Excuse me." And I explained what had just happened with the necklace and that I stopped it from spinning because I didn't have permission to clear the store. And I asked permission. I said that it wouldn't have moved if it wasn't necessary. So I got permission to clean the store. In fact, I wrote down what they said so I wouldn't forget. I'm reading right here in front of me. I can agree with that. When I said it feels like your store needs clearing, the answer was, I can agree with that. So I used that necklace to clear the store. And then I put it back and, went on my merry way doing my window shopping. So just mentioning that because, again, I didn't have my pendulum on me. I didn't know that I was going to need it. I wasn't guided to bring it with me, as sometimes I am. And yet, there was something I could use in that moment because it was needed. So just to keep that in mind, if you choose to work with a pendulum, okay? So, the pendulum is nice and still at this point. Thank you very much. And what I'm going to do is ask it to, it's starting to swing again. Can you stop, please? Thank you. Notice how I'm talking to it as if it's a person? That's what you do with your pendulum. I'll explain more about that once we program it. So, the first thing to do is to establish your yes and no responses. Make sure you're holding your pendulum as still as you can. It's naturally going to have a little bit of sway. As you can see, there's a little bit of sway going on. That's because my hand is moving up here a little bit, or my arm is moving. My hand is actually pretty still. So what I would, and I'm already thinking, please show me your yes response, and there it goes. It's showing you its yes response, which is a vertical swing, and it's doing it nice and strong, which I really appreciate because a soft yes would not be as interesting. I don't know if you can tell, my hand is not moving. Let's see if I can bring it in here. Oh, there we go. Okay, go ahead, please. So you can see my hand is still, and yet there goes the pendulum, just moving away. Thank you very much. Okay. Please show me your no response. So there you go. That's your basic no response. That's, for me, a horizontal swing. Now the thing is, before I go any further, what I will say is that it's possible that your yes and no responses will be identical to mine. Don't assume it's going to be that way. It may be that your yes and no responses are the exact opposite of that, or something completely different. It could be that your yes response is a circle, either clockwise or counterclockwise. Be open to it being whatever it is. It will be what you need, and it will also reflect the energy that you're working with. Okay? So, the next thing that I want to show you, so we did our yes, we did our no, and what's next? Okay, well, let's just talk about what you now use this programmed pendulum for. I don't know if I can take these hearts. I might not use this fun thing again. That bouncing heart is driving me crazy. Anyway, it's okay. Onward. So, working with a pendulum. You are working with a spirit energy. And it will be a spirit energy that is aligned with your highest good and completely independent of your ego. That's really important. The other thing about working with a pendulum to know is, oh, before I go there, so that's actually why I talk to my pendulum as if it's a person. It sort of is, actually. All I can think of right now is, what's that t-shirt that I think I've seen on Ghost Hunters before. Ghosts were human too. Yeah. So your pendulum energy was probably human at one point too. So, treat it as if you would a human relationship. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Too deep here. So the next thing is about trusting. And this comes up a lot with our intuition. We're so used to working with our ego. And it's, in some ways, it's almost impossible not to be, just given the way our society is, the way life is. We can make choices that put our ego in the back seat. And that's what trusting your intuition is about. It's very much like what Elizabeth Gilbert says in Big Magic. Make friends with your ego, but don't let it be your boss. You are the captain of the ship. More, your intuition is the captain of the ship. The ego is another passenger. Okay, a companion. So, trust. Practice trusting. Even if, again, conventional wisdom, which is ego wisdom, might indicate a response different than what you've received. Also, when it comes to asking questions of your pendulum, you're asking questions that are for you, about you. Using your pendulum to say, does he love me? No. Because that does not have to do with, how can I put this? That's kind of like, that's almost like spying in a way. And what I've discovered with the spirit realm is there's this wonderful, although sometimes frustrating, need to know policy. And so you might ask that question and get an answer. However, the answer may not be what it actually is, because the answer is a need to know. That also means it could be what it is. That's what you don't know. Better to keep it to yourself. Keep it about yourself. Start there, preferably stay there. The other thing that can take you outside of that, just working with yourself, is if you are guided to use your pendulum to do clearings, as I do on occasion. While most of the clearings that I do are done intuitively at the purely energetic level, the psychic level, so to speak, sometimes my pendulum is a great ally with that. I always know, because I'm pretty much told, hey, you need your pendulum, So then I put it into use. And I'm going to give you an example, because this afternoon I had a lot of unexpected reading work that I did. And I was working with a lot of spirits. So I can tell that my space probably needs a little bit of tidying up, so to speak. So it's a great opportunity to show you how that can work. So what I'm going to do is ask my pendulum to do whatever it needs to do to clear my space. And so you can see it's spinning clockwise at a pretty good clip it's getting going here. And again, doesn't surprise me given the level of spirit activity that I was involved with today. I don't think it's going to do a flat out spin. If it feels like it is, I'll have to adjust my arm because right now it doesn't have room to do that. And it feels like it's slowing down. And it will let me know if it's done by actually going into its yes response, which it has done. But I feel like I need to ask it if it actually is done. Are you done? Oh. So, nope. So actually, it was finished with the one part, but now you can see it's actually going into a counterclockwise spin. So it was letting me know that it was done with basically part one of the clearing. Now it's doing part two of the clearing. It feels like it's gathering. It feels like it was dispelling clockwise. It feels like it's gathering counterclockwise. It's saying yes. Does that also mean that you're done? Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else I need to mention about this? This was longer than I expected, although, considering what it's about, I guess better to have a little bit more than less. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to leave a comment below the video, or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, although I encourage it because you might be asking a question someone else has too, you can always reply to the email that this video was linked from and ask a question. I will acknowledge your email. Depending on the question, I might end up answering it more fully in next week's newsletter. Okay? All right. That's it. That's all I've got. Anything else? I'm not drinking wine this week. I did stop on the way home from my adventure and got a pumpkin spice coffee, which is tasting really good this afternoon. It is getting dark here. The sun has actually already set, and it's trick-or-treat night in my town. We have not had one trick-or-treater yet. It started 35 minutes ago. Not uncommon. I live in a rural area, and they probably all go to, a town or at least another neighborhood where there are a lot of houses close together so they can get as much candy as possible. That's how it works. So it was great talking with you, and I hope these videos are helpful, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Happy November.